So North Korea has carried a number of tests this year, but it has to be said that this one appears to be the most provocative. What is the latest?
Yes, I would agree that this is the most serious so far among that volley of launches that have happened in recent months, ordered by the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It's significant for several reasons. First, of course, because that missile launch this morning flew over northern Japan, over the main Japanese island of Hokkaido. As you said in your introduction, it was designed to carry a nuclear payload. And perhaps most significantly of all, we now have South Korean officials saying that this may have been the longest flight ever achieved by a North Korean missile test. So we know that it flew about 2,700 kilometers. That's significantly further than in other missile tests previously. And what's also important to remember about this is the trajectory was relatively flat. So in previous missile tests, the missiles have tended to fly very high and then splash down into the ocean, but not really achieve much in terms of distance. And what the fear is that today North Korea was really sending a message to the US and to South Korea amid the joint military drills that they're conducting on the Korean Peninsula at the moment, that they can make good on the threat that was issued a couple of weeks ago by Kim Jong-un to send an intermediate range missile into waters off the Pacific US territory of Guam. So yes, significant and provocative for several reasons, I think.
And so we're seeing a condemnation again from South Korea, from Japan. What's the next step?
Well, the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, after addressing the Japanese people on television very early this morning, just after the launch, then spoke to Donald Trump. We understand that the US President and Abe spoke on the telephone for about 40 minutes, and Japan won reassurances that it's had before, that the US is 100% behind it as it confronts this growing threat from North Korea. And they also agreed that they need to bring this up urgently in the UN Security Council. So clearly the time difference means that's not going to happen until later today. But it really remains to be seen what the UN Security Council can do. China has urged restraint, so there is perhaps a question mark over whether China would want to support even tougher sanctions following already quite stringent sanctions that were passed a week or two ago. And as we know from the beginning of North Korea's ballistic missile and nuclear weapons program that started more than a decade ago in earnest, international sanctions have had very little effect so far.
And Justin, real quickly, how did the people of Japan react to this launch?
Well, it was the sort of wake-up call that the Japanese authorities have been warning might take place for several months now, since those ballistic missile launches really began to become more frequent. But I would say that most people, if they were able to, did as they were told and sought some sort of refuge either underground, and there aren't many underground shelters in Japan, or in sturdier buildings. But just generally speaking, having watched local media coverage today and spoken to Japanese people, they're casting a wary eye towards North Korea, certainly, and will be hoping that this is the first and last of these provocative missile launches over Japanese territory. But generally, there is a very definite lack of panic on the streets of Tokyo and other cities and towns in Japan here on Tuesday afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Justin McCurry reporting from Tokyo.